said he was mobster. They lied. Dancer James Cagney was pressured into playing strong guys. He nearly died numerous times because Warner Brothers made him use actual bullets in his movies. This is how they'll remember Cagney. No idea. Recognition as an entertainment behemoth. James Cagney. They took him to the White House to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom from an old friend at the end. Even worse, unknown caregivers kept his children from visiting him in his dying years. His son died of heartbreak without saying goodbye. Hollywood tried to hide this for 80 years. James Cagney was born 1899. The rugged Lower East Side of Manhattan. His family was poor and streets were rough. James was a neighborhood legend as a street fighter by age 14. Unknowingly, his father, a bartender and amateur boxer, gave James the grit he needed. 2 of his siblings died in infancy in their small, squalid house. Cagney's mother Carolyn was tough and strong. She taught her kids to work hard and avoid trouble. James later claimed she saved him from becoming a criminal like his boyhood companions. Spanish flu hit in 1918. The sickness devastated their family. Cagney's father died suddenly at 42. James was 19. And had recently started college at Columbia. He wanted to study art and join the military. However, his father's death forced him to stop school and support his mother and 4 siblings. One was a newborn. That duty altered everything. He focused on work and never looked back. Not only was his childhood hard. Also, it damaged his health. Despite being little and suffering from malnutrition, he kept going. He became a top amateur boxer. He finished runner-up for the New York State lightweight title with his speed and skill. His mother opposed his pro career, despite coach's advice. He stopped boxing to avoid losing another family member. His activity continued. Dancing in the streets and fighting when needed. His grace and grit would make him famous. He was talented outside the ring. He was accepted to Columbia to study art before his father died. In the Student Army Training Corps, he took German. After dropping out, his life changed. He kept his early love of art. Years later, he returned to painting and quietly accumulated his own work. Giving up his aspirations for his family became a lifelong habit. To survive, he worked ceaselessly. He worked in the New York Public Library as a bellhop, janitor, copyboy, night doorman, and book custodian. He learned a little of everything. He attempted architecture and technical drawing. Regardless of his profession, every dime went to his mother and siblings. No cent was his. He later called it his best experience. That fight made him strong and taught him life's meaning. In 1919, something unexpected occurred. A co-worker saw his dancing ability and suggested an audition. Men disguised as women for a stage show. He aced the Peabody, his only dance. The producers liked him, therefore he got the job. The $35 weekly pay felt like a fortune. Cagney felt strangely liberated with wigs, makeup, and feathers. Even though Hollywood would hide it, it was his stage debut. Cagney had been street dancing before then. Slanted city cellar doors were his stages. The sound of his feet tapping on the wood gave him the nickname Cellar Door Cagney. He'd dance, then fight if someone mistreated his sibling. His unusual mix of dancer and fighter would become part of his movie magic. A moment from those early years stuck out. His sibling felt sick before a pantomime. Cagney volunteered while someone else was unavailable. Despite working behind the scenes, he had learned every line and gesture from watching. His performance was flawless. Director Florence James marveled. He made his stage debut. It opened new doors for him. From then on, he embraced theater. He did everything, not just act. He was in the chorus, dressed stars, moved luggage, and understudied for greater roles. Even after receiving prominent roles and greater compensation, he helped backstage. He never considered any job beneath him. His practical expertise made him bright, reliable, and respected. Orson Welles called him possibly the greatest actor ever. He fell in love somewhere. Cagney met Frances Willard Vernon in 1920 while performing in Pitter Patter on Broadway. Her nickname was Billy. She sang in the chorus. In 1922, they married. A remarkable 64-year marriage till his 1986 death. That was rare in Hollywood. People said he never cheated. Not once. He resisted temptation and stayed with her. They adopted 2 children and moved to a secluded New York farm. She stopped performing but supported him as he became famous. Built a career few could equal. James Cagney never intended to be Hollywood's most famous gangster. For The Public Enemy in 1931, he wasn't even intended to play the lead. That position went to Edward Woods. Just a sidekick, Cagney. But something changed. Director William Wellman recognized something in Cagney. Authentic, raw. His harsh New York edge fit the role. Wellman bravely switched roles before filming. Cagney took the lead, and everything changed. The film is an instant hit in theaters. The audience was glued on Cagney. Not just acting. He was gangster. He became famous overnight. He was made by the role he almost missed. One sequence from that film is renowned. On screen, Cagney smashes a grapefruit into Mae Clarke's face. People discuss it today. No one agrees on the idea's origin. Some say producer, others director. Some believe it was inspired by a genuine gangster who threw food at his lover. Mae Clarke's rendition. She stated they tried throwing grapefruit across the room but failed. After that, Cagney and the director asked her if he could shove it in her face. She agreed if they did it in one take. They did, and succeeded. Stunned audiences. Clarke's ex-husband watched the movie several times to chuckle at the scenario. Cagney played more than villains. Makes you admire the villain. Never previously had that happened. Movie villains were always evil before him. But Cagney gave them charm, humor, and perverse bravery. Critics said that you couldn't decide whether to support or oppose him. Some called him a gutter knight, a back-alley hero. Another stated he made gang laws somewhat cool. Whether good or terrible, that affected movies forever. Not all villains were monsters after Cagney. They may be complex and human. The twist. The tough person on screen wasn't James Cagney. In person, he was calm and attentive. Trained in dance and theater. He started as a singer-dancer, not a combatant. The studio didn't care. Warner Brothers hoped the gangster image would sell seats. So they pushed it even in his comedies. People imagined he was rough in real life. Theater proprietors claimed audiences didn't want Cagney beaten. They wanted him to beat. However, the tough guy didn't always like being boxed in. Cagney was outspoken. He performed what few actors dared in 1935, in his peak. Warner Brothers was sued. They were making him make more movies than his contract permitted, and he refused. Not about money. It was respect. He gambled everything. In the past, crossing the studio may terminate your career. But Cagney persisted. And he won. That win broke the studio structure and showed performers they weren't powerless. Then he went further. He joined Grand National Pictures, a tiny independent, after leaving Warner Brothers. The risk was huge. Big studios banned him. Some producers ignored his calls. But Cagney believed in doing things his way. Agreement granted him full power, a huge wage, and a profit share. His films were good, but the company couldn't make them successful. Grand National lost money after 2 movies. The studio was reported to have collapsed after Cagney's second film. But he didn't regret it. His point was made. Warner Brothers crawled back in 1938. He set regulations this time. He could approve all scripts, made $150,000 per film, and only had to do 2 per year. Even his brother produced all his flicks. Massive win. That agreement was unprecedented for actors. Cagney showed you could beat the system. The next year, he was Hollywood's second highest paid actor. Only Gary Cooper made more. His Lower East Side childhood was far behind him. He went from dancing for pennies to making millions. He wasn't wasteful. He bought a large farm, assisted old neighborhood friends, and gave quietly. Despite working less, he accomplished it. Hollywood gangster flicks were risky in the beginning. Studios used real firearms and bullets to make everything look real. James Cagney, a 1930s superstar, faced multiple life-threatening situations. One movie, The Public Enemy, had him to duck around a corner as gunshots pounded the wall behind him. These were not sound effects or blanks. Actual sharpshooters missed him by inches with live shots. Angels with dirty faces increased danger. Cagney was intended to hang outside a window as machine guns destroyed the glass. His foot was down this time. He refused to perform it without special effects instead of live gunfire. The crew tested the shot without him. One bullet hit Cagney's head after bouncing off the steel window frame and flying across the room. That was the last straw. He promised never again and continued. Cagney helped found the Screen Actors Guild to shield other actors from the same perils he barely escaped. Cagney didn't fear every risk. He sometimes took them intentionally. In 1949's White Heat, he played dangerous criminal Cody Jarrett. The film closes with a massive chemical factory explosion, and Cagney, 50-year-old, insisted on performing the scene. As he cried "Top of the world, ma," fire erupted around him. It went beyond acting. There was real fire, heat, and danger. When the wind changed, flames burned his hands and face. Still, he continued. He maintained character. Finished the scene. The studio's insurance company nearly shut it down, but the sequence became one of movie history's most memorable. Despite such, Cagney couldn't control everything. Despite his talent, he was always seen as a thug. That side haunted him, costing him desired roles. Legendary football coach Knut Rockne has one. Cagney studied for the job, developed the accent, and was ready to shed his criminal image. Notre Dame rejected him. They blamed his politics, not his movies. Cagney backed a Spanish Civil War cause the Catholic University opposed. Pat O'Brien, his friend, won the role. Cagney later called it his biggest career letdown. Still, he persisted. In 1942, Yankee Doodle Dandy did more than make audiences smile. It altered James Cagney's image. He had previously punched first and asked questions later. Gangster, tough guy, not to mess with. In this film, he changed entirely. He played America's greatest showman, George M. Cohan. Fans watched Cagney sing, dance, and charm on screen for the first time. Not simply a gimmick. A revelation. He received his only Oscar for his performance. The timing was perfect. 6 months after Pearl Harbor, the nation craved hope. Cagney provided those and more. His natural acting made it even more startling. He seemed destined to play Cohen. Critics noted. One article suggested Cohen and Cagney were hard to distinguish. For years, Cagney hid this side of himself. He danced before becoming a gangster. Warner Brothers didn't tell them he'd done vaudeville and could move. They suppressed his dancing because it didn't fit his image. The audience didn't know his abilities. This film revolutionized everything, and Cagney didn't hold back. The classic sequence where he tap danced down the White House stairs wasn't in the script. He got up 5 minutes before the cameras. No rehearsal or warning. He didn't tell the director. Just did it. The movie version wasn't the original, which is even more amazing. It was tried over a dozen times. Their preferred model had a smooth fall down the stairs, but the cameras ruined it. They chose the tap dance variation. One of the most memorable film moments was that accident. Behind the scenes, Cagney was in. He demanded to dance every step. Avoid duplication and shortcuts. Despite breaking a rib during a routine, he continued. He continued till the photo was complete. He saw a doctor afterward. He was 42 and no longer young. His body wasn't conventional for a dancer. None of that mattered. His efforts worked. People sensed it. He's energetic. His dedication. His joy. He studied Cohen for months to make the performance realistic. He consulted former co-workers. He adopted Cohen's odd gait, stiff-legged dancing, and demeanor. Cohen had Warner Brothers hire a Broadway choreographer who worked with him. Johnny Boyle helped Cagney learn Cohen's skills. Sadly, Boyle fractured his ankle during practices and couldn't dance again. Though upsetting, it made Cagney more determined to get it right. Cohen was sick when he saw the movie. Cagney received his blessing. It meant everything. Cagney worked hard to honor the character he played, not only to please audiences. His saying, "Once a song and dance man, always a song and dance man," was confirmed after Yankee Doodle Dandy. James Cagney was fed up with Hollywood. He fought Warner Brothers over money, authority, and hours for years. He was their biggest star, but they treated him like a replacement. After Yankee Doodle Dandy's 1942 success, he was done. That year, he and his brother William founded a corporation. The company was Cagney Productions. A brave move. Many actors were afraid to go independent then. Most had stringent large studio contracts. James Cagney craved liberty. He wanted to choose his characters and make films he supported. United Artists provided funding. That was unusual. Independent producers usually paid for everything. James sacrificed his $150,000 income to support the company. A few years later, William Cagney bought part of a film company, demonstrating their commitment to creating it themselves. Johnny Come Lately, 1943, was their first film. It contrasted with Cagney's mobster roles. This time, he played a nice vagrant who fought local corruption. Although not a hit, it produced a fair profit. Still, issues arose quickly. United Artists wanted Cagney's strongman image to promote it. But he refused. He wanted that history gone. But selling a new image proved hard. Studio and audience expected the old Cagney. At the same time, Cagney fought again. He became SAG president in 1942. Timing was tough. Many performers fought in World War II. And union membership fell. Negotiating fair deals was difficult due to government salary constraints. Cagney defended actors in Washington. He also attempted to resolve a big guild issue. Background actors couldn't vote while being members. He demanded change, calling it unjust. While this happened, he helped the war effort. Cagney joined USO tours to entertain soldiers, like many entertainers. These performances were everywhere, even at the front. Performers risked their lives to cheer up the troops. They sang, danced, joked, and sometimes welcomed soldiers. The shows boosted morale during the war's hardest days. Back in Hollywood, things grew harder. Cagney Productions made 3 films in 5 years. Some, like Blood on the Sun, did well. However, The Time of Your Life was a flop. Cost too much, made too little. Despite William Saroyan's love, the film failed to connect with spectators. Money ran out after that. Additionally, they fought over studio space in court. Cagney returned to Warner Brothers in 1949, but the contract was different. He was more in charge now. He settled for 1 film a year and was well paid. Cagney Productions remains, but under Warner Brothers. They finished filming in 1953. After that, the company closed permanently. James Cagney was a Hollywood celebrity, but his family tragedy tormented him in his later years. People around him changed as he aged. His life was slowly taken over by paid caregivers. They said they protected him and Billy, his wife. They actually kept everyone out, including Cagney's children. Letters stopped arriving at the residence. Calls were prohibited. Visitors were denied. Cagney's children, friends, and siblings were kept apart. His sister Jean, battling illness, couldn't reach him. His brother Bill, who had worked with him for decades, also failed. Mid-1980s Cagney's environment was small and peaceful. Cut off from his family. What happened between Cagney and his son, James Jr., was the worst. He didn't want cash. He only wanted Dad's attention. He kept trying to reconnect with his Marine Corps service. A sad turn occurred during a final visit to the family farm in New York. Police met James Jr. instead of welcoming him. His caregivers called them to keep him away. His father's home, where he grew up, was off limits. That stung so much. He never saw his father again. James Jr., 42, died of a heart attack 2 years later in 1984. He never forgot what he witnessed on his last visit. His residence was empty. Photos disappeared. The furniture left. Even the closet cedar paneling was gone. It seemed someone tried to obliterate the family's past. James Jr. has lost all ties to his past. That day he cried. He stood in the house's empty middle. He understood childhood was over. He lived with that pain his whole short life. His sister Casey struggled too. Like her brother, she was adopted and raised away from their famous father. Casey suffered from health issues throughout her life. Like her dad, she loved horses, but health often limited her. Her relationship with her parents deteriorated over time. Casey died of cancer at 64 in 2004. She survived over 20 years after her father's death, but the family never recovered. Cagney retired from acting before this. Retirement followed his 1961 comedy 1, 2, 3. Filming was awful. One scene had to be repeated 50 times. He confesses to nearly losing his temper after a workplace conflict with a younger actor. However, something else drove him away permanently. He visited a German concentration camp while filming. The event shook him. He was fed up with Hollywood, stress, and loudness. He believed that was the end. Over 2 decades, he rejected offers. One of his most memorable refusals was Hyman Roth in The Godfather Part 2. The role went to Lee Strasberg. The perfect full-circle moment would have been an elderly mafia icon transferring the torch to a new generation. But Cagney didn't care. When tempted to return, he envisioned Jack Warner, the studio chief he'd fought for years, and the feeling vanished. Still, he returned in 1980. Milos Forman offered him a small role in Ragtime. By then, Cagney was 81, sick, and despondent. After a stroke, he couldn't paint, ride horses, or do other things he enjoyed. His physicians felt performing again could help. So he agreed. His first film in 20 years was his last. Despite appearing in a TV movie, he was wheelchair-bound. But Ragtime gave him one last shine. A bombastic career ended quietly. Cagney kept his politics private throughout his life. He joined communist causes in the 1930s without knowing it. He got more conservative later, but he never said so. He didn't party in Hollywood or live lavishly. Orson Welles stated Cagney never entered a nightclub. He preferred hiding, but Cagney was unmistakable on television. He was possibly the finest actor ever, according to Welles. Not just flattery. Cagney breached all rules. He didn't downplay for the movie like most theater actors. Each role was fully realized, but always felt authentic. His honesty and power made him memorable. He danced, fought, and cried intensely. Yankee Doodle Dandy earned him an Oscar. Love Me or Leave Me and Angels with Dirty Faces nominations. The world recognized Cagney as Hollywood's first gangster when he died at 86 in 1986. But his life was formed by silence, remoteness, and grief behind the scenes. His legacy and family loss endure.